it's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Hey, everybody. Ken in studio for another hour of RoadWorthy Drive with the crew, holding it down, the adult at the controls. Say hi to Jack.
Hello.
The lady with the sass and the lady with the class, holding it down over at Mic 2, our own gamer girl and social media diva, Sasha. Say hi, Sasha.
Hi, Sasha.
This hour, obviously, we take our walk through the parts bin to see what's going on. We're going to talk about something. I'm going to rant in the first segment because it's something I found that, well, I'll explain it to you, but it's a consumer beware piece. You will understand why I'm livid about it. In the second piece, I thought for the second and third segments of the show that we would go back to basics. We're going to talk about connected vehicles. It's a term that you've probably heard a lot about, but may not understand what they mean. And we're also going to revisit autonomous vehicles. We talk about autonomous vehicles a lot on this show, but I realize from time to time people may not always understand what we're talking about. And if you're a new listener or a newer listener, you may not have been around when we broke that down. I thought it was time to do that, so we're going to do that in this hour. So consumer affairs, education, and, of course, comments from the Peanut Gallery right here on RoadWorthy Drive Behind the Scenes. So glad you could be with us here on YouTube. All right, Jack, 11 minutes?
We had 11 minutes.
Sasha?
Jack, did you bring the peanuts
No.
this week?
It was your turn, Sasha.
Was it?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what you get.
Not my monkey,
Sorry, guys.
not
Not
my
my circus.
Here we
11
go.
minutes, people.
Here we go.
Do you want to go faster? Yeah!
It's RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester. Ken loves talking about cars and automotive trends. And here he is, the automotive host with the most, Ken Chester.
Welcome to another installment of RoadWorthy Drive. I'm your host for the hour, Ken Chester. So glad you could join us. As regular listeners know, this is not your father's or grandfather's car show. We're focused on the everyday technology and consumer information that you need to know that will make you a better informed, and by that, a better, more aware consumer and motorist. Time with me each week is time well spent. I work hard to make sure that that's true each and every time we get together. For this hour, some consumer news that will result in some ranting from me and some warning for you. Later, I thought I would revisit two of the terms that you've heard and perhaps are hearing bandied about in the mainstream press. That is connected vehicles and autonomous vehicles. And I know here we've talked a lot about both, but I thought it would be time to take a break, take a step back, and maybe explain what we mean, what those terms mean, so that you will have a better understanding of what we're talking about when we reference those terms. Now, the crew and I will take some time to explain exactly what those terms mean, and more importantly, why you should care. Those of you that wish to join in on the conversation, you're always welcome. Call or text me on the RoadWorthy Drive line, that number, 872-222-9793. That's 872-222-9793. If email's your thing, my address is ken@roadworthydrive.net. Either way will connect you to me and the show. Speaking of the show, allow me to introduce the other two members of the RoadWorthy Drive crew in studio. At the controls, the man with questions, the designated adult in the room, my good friend, you know him, you love him, you can't live without him, RoadWorthy Drive executive producer, Jack. And holding it down at Mic 2, as always, our sweet, sassy, social media diva and gamer girl extraordinaire, Sasha. Howdy, my peoples.
Hi, Ken. How
Howdy,
are you?
Ken.
I am okay.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to play you something.
Okay, wait a minute. Was the suits involved?
This is going to now define the suits, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
Nice. Nice.
Enough of that.
Okay. Was that a disclaimer, sir?
Pretty much, we're in trouble.
Well, when are we not in trouble?
Apparently, I need to stop thinking outside the box.
I didn't realize we had a box to think outside of.
Yes,
You
we
mean the suits actually allowed us a box?
Yes.
Oh, my.
And
To sit
Sasha,
on.
did you know anything about that?
To sit on instead of using a chair.
Yeah, well,
no,
you know.
actually, what it is, they thought we went a little too long last week on ranting about not being able to get outside and enjoy the weather.
There's repercussions. See, I told you.
Oh, wow. Okay, Ken, let's talk about the parts bin this week.
Well, let's talk about Toyota and Lexus connecting vehicles with infrastructure starting in just 3 years.
In 21.
21.
Okay.
They plan to deploy something that's called dedicated short-range communication systems on their vehicles sold in the United States. Their goal is to create a safer and more efficient driving ecosystem while advancing connected and automated technology development. Now, this level of communication that they're talking about can be enabled to provide helpful real-time information to drivers, such as potential hazards, slow or stop vehicles ahead, or signals, signs, and road conditions that may be difficult to see. Now, we've talked about this before with vehicle to infrastructure that Audi started in Las Vegas first, and they've expanded to 6 or 7 other cities. This dedicated short-range communication, you'll know it by the letters DSRC, and you'll see those letters when they're talking about vehicle-to-vehicle communication as well, or vehicle-to infrastructure, or they'll also call it vehicle-to-everything, which is V2X.
Okay.
Toyota and Lexus actually launched this in 2015 in Japan. They right now have over 100,000 vehicles on the road with this technology in Japan.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to do vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to everything, okay, are they going to be able to tell me on a display screen that there's road construction coming up? Because I know some of the nav stuff does it now.
Mm-hmm. That was interesting. I heard a noise.
So did I.
Oh, anyway, to answer your question, even in our state, if you recall, that was their pilot test to use information and the infrastructure they have now to communicate both to drivers of what's going on ahead and to hear from drivers who may be, or vehicles that are in that situation, such as a breakdown or road construction or an accident. So this is really the first step. It takes that and very detailed maps, which is another piece for another time. But yes, the answer is yes.
And how are they going to what are they going to communicate with? Are they going to communicate using cell towers, Wi-Fi of some kind?
Well, understand that, and we'll talk about this a little later in the show, but many of your cars now are Wi-Fi hotspots.
Okay.
And I would believe even yours. Maybe.
I think you're right.
Well, they're a hotspot with a subscription, but what Jack is specifically asking is, what network are they going to maintain? Like, let's say I don't pay my subscription. This connected car is still going to be talking to the infrastructure.
Right.
On what network is that?
I would say probably the default network that's there. Just because it's Wi-Fi, you may not be subscribed to it, doesn't mean that it's not transmitting information. In fact, most of your new Nissans actually tell you that it transmits information. Now, you have the ability to turn it off.
Right.
And we'll talk about that a little later.
And you can opt in, opt out. Right?
You can opt in, opt out.
Right.
But I believe that it's going to communicate at least across the internet, as opposed to across the cell phone towers, being more ability to be more secure, and an ability to be for what they need it to be, to collect it, to bring it in the cloud, disperse it through the cloud.
Well, and the one thing that still gets me with all of this technology, as fast as it's swirling, and it is swirling,
it is
I'm still worried about the security.
And,
I am probably going to be on my deathbed still worrying about security.
But in fairness, Jack, you have a point. Security is something that needs to be addressed. It's something that needs to continue to be at the forefront, not just security, but privacy issues.
Yep.
With all this information going back and forth, and we're being reassured that it's anonymous information that it's collecting, not about you specifically, but about the vehicle generally and the infrastructure information. But what proof do we have?
Yep.
We don't.
I mean,
Exactly.
right now, we don't, and we've seen this with other tech companies, trust us. We have your best interest at heart.
Experian, Target.
Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to be a conversation that needs to continue to be had. It's questions that we're going to need to continue to ask. And I don't think it is unreasonable to ask. The flip side of that, however, and we are all guilty of it, is when particular tech providers say, we've updated our privacy policy, our security policy.
And you can't go any further before you accept it.
Or you can read it. But let's be blunt. How many of us take the time to stop right there and read it, or print it off, or find a situation where I can go through it step by step to find out exactly what I'm agreeing to or what I'm giving up?
I don't think most people read them.
Exactly. So the problem that we have is, even for the folks that are trying to do right, there's a certain responsibility as consumers that we have. Give you a perfect example. In a situation where a vehicle is uploading real-time traffic information based on where your vehicle is via
Correct.
GPS,
Yeah.
or transmitting to you warnings of stuff ahead, an accident, a box in the middle of the road, animals, or other traffic
Hazards. Yep.
That's a good thing. But if you opt out, does that mean you don't get that information?
I don't know.
Exactly.
And
so these are questions that we need to ask. And this is, again, and I blame myself too, we all, we talk about security, we talk about privacy, but we need to take the time at least once. And for the tech companies or the apps or the other tech that we touch, feel, respond to, that's collecting information about us, then we need to take the time when they say, hey, this is what we do, take the time and read it.
Okay, I got one more question.
Okay.
Are we at a point, with all this technology swirling as fast as it is, do we need to be going to our Congress people to make sure that they're also on top of it too? Because I am a guy, I hate government regulations.
We do.
I just do.
But you know what?
This is a piece we've got to have.
Yes.
There is good at times when there should be regulation. This is one of those times, because then you know what standard people are being held to. You know by law what they can get and what they can't get. And then it becomes really easy. Next, consumers beware. It's rant time.
RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester is heard exclusively on the RoadWorthy Drive radio network.
RoadWorthy Drive. Like us on Facebook.
Yeah, once again, it is one of those times where our legislature is horrifically behind the times.
Okay, in fairness, at least in this state, because I did the research and I reached out. In this particular example, I was dealing with autonomous vehicles. I wasn't dealing with connected vehicles. But I ended up talking to legislators on the Transportation Committee in the House and Senate.
Okay.
I ended up talking to the Department of Transportation and the people that had the responsibility of looking at autonomous vehicles for application. Now, footnote, in the state that we live in this state where we record this show, the state does not allow by law or prevent by law autonomous vehicles, just so we're clear. Most companies are smarter than that. Rather than to foist it on the public and force the laws, they're working with the DOT. Our DOT is going step by step, and in fact, we did interviews about a year ago on what we learned and how they were approaching it, and I build it as one state's approach to looking at this autonomous world and how to implement it and all the impact that it may have.
And looking at everything.
Yeah. I would not say that, at least at the state level, can't speak for the feds, but at least at the state level, that our legislators are asleep at the switch. This stuff is changing in real time. And what you could get guilty of is if you set requirements too early, you stymie the progress, because it is changing like that. The best bet that I've seen that I think works, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has issued guidelines each year. Now, it's not rulemaking, because rulemaking has a process. It takes years, and they felt that if they went that way with it, they wouldn't get the desired result. Now, part of the benefit of having NHTSA do what they did, the first thing they did was codify the Association of Automotive Engineers standard for various levels of autonomous driving.
What do you mean by codify?
It means that they've agreed, they've adopted these standards, which will become the de facto standards when you're talking about, and I've skipped from connected to autonomous, and this is something we're going to talk about later too. But in the case of autonomous, they said, okay, SAE has standards where they look at how they identify no autonomy, autonomy, and everything in between. We are adopting those standards as the standards. So in other words, there's not standards over here, standards over there, standards up there, standards down there. These are the standards. And by codifying them means if these are the standards, then if you are a developer, an automaker, a tech company, these are the standards you go by and as you're working and doing research for autonomous vehicles.
And this is as far as you can go.
It's not so much that, it's how it's defined.
Okay.
I mean, as far as you can go still requires legislation.
Okay. And at what point do we get the the Congress and the Senate involved to make the laws so that this stuff, so we have the same standards we have with the combustible engine?
Well, okay. All right. That's a whole nother conversation because
Okay.
you're kind of mixing apples and oranges.
Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't mean to.
But as far as autonomy, this is one of those things where they did, in fact, pass, what is it, safe car? There was a body of legislation that they were trying to get through last year. Don't remember if the president signed it or not. Relative to exempting automakers from certain federal motor vehicle safety standards during autonomous car development.
Okay.
That sounds a little backwards, don't it?
Yeah.
You want to release them from standards, but you're developing a car we don't know yet to be safe.
But in this development, aren't they doing this on test tracks and not on the road? Or some of the ones that they're doing on the road, they have your favorite backup?
Yes and yes and yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in case you were wondering, favorite backup, I have this rant about human drivers being the safety drivers in an autonomous vehicle. And my argument is very simple. If they're doing more than 20 miles an hour and you have a malfunction, the human driver is worthless, as far as I'm concerned, for so many reasons. Because the computer's acting faster. If it malfunctions, by the time the driver, even if they are fully engaged, realizes they need to take remedial action, it's too late. And that's just how the human mind works, even if they are totally dialed in. And that's assuming they're totally dialed in. You're talking about tenths of a second. You're talking about nanoseconds that these computers are operating in. And you're looking at a response time for a human being, 1 to 2 seconds. And that's if they're engaged and on top of it. It's already too late.
Okay, then. Let's go to segment number 2. I have I believe it is tell me again what it is.
You should have the 1960 Ford Starliner.
Starliner, got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
What?
What is your problem?
Speak up, dear.
Yeah, you might
2 minutes long.
get over it. She doesn't like the length of the commercial.
Oh.
She's having a fit.
Okay.
But you know what?
Just a microscopic.
You know what? My show. Deal. Okay, sir. You ready?
One of these days, we just ought to walk the
I know.
reaction value.
I know.
Hold it. I have a malfunction here.
See there?
I can't find it. What did I do?
Conjunction junction. What's your malfunction?
I have a lot of malfunctions.
Ah.
Okay, hang on. Where would I have? I swear to God, I saved those yesterday. Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Take 2.
Oh, I got to reset my time. 9 minutes, people.
9 minutes.
Okay.
Please.
Let's do
Here
it.
we go.
as long as any of us can remember, the performance leader of the American road has been Ford. And now, Ford proudly presents the most exciting Ford of a lifetime, the Starliner. A car for those who want the ultimate in performance. Available in the Starliner is the Thunderbird Special V8 engine. Here's all the reserve power you'll ever need for safe, sure passing, plus extra responsiveness that makes the Starliner more fun to drive than any car you've ever driven before. The front tread is a full 5 feet wide, the same as the Thunderbird, for better cornering, better roadability. Rear leaf springs are extra long for a more stable ride. Brakes are 25% bigger, the biggest in the low-price field. You can identify the Starliner by its racy new swept-back roof, trademark of the performance car of 1960. Starliner at your Ford dealers now.
Roadability?
Roadability. Okay, first of all, there is a story behind this.
Okay.
My grandmother owned one of those.
Really?
When I was a little boy, probably the vehicle's about 3 years old. One of my earliest remembrances of automobiles. My dad was changing the fuel pump. My grandmother had a black 60 two-door Starliner. Mm-hmm.
It came in 2 and 4, correct?
I don't know if it was a 4-door, but I remember that 2-door. And I remember the fuel pump. I couldn't have been more than 3 years old. Fuel pump had a glass bowl and a lever. And Dad had pulled it because he was replacing the fuel pump.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was kind of having a nostalgic moment. If you're wondering what you are found here, this is RoadWorthy Drive. Honest, it really is. And I'm Ken Chester, your host. And we like to play vintage automotive advertising, usually at the beginning of our second segment. We think it adds a nice touch. And every now and then, we have an emotional attachment, as I do to both of these. And I'll talk about the next one in the next hour. Anyway, I'm going to start this segment off with a rant. Now, you might know, and I've mentioned it on air, I recently bought the missus a new vehicle back in January. Now, this past week, we got a postcard in the mail. Now, my wife bought a brand new, 2017, brand new, small crossover.
Correct.
Okay? Yeah.
Before you read it, the following rant is Ken Chester's and Ken Chester's alone. It does not reflect the editorial position of RoadWorthy Drive, me, or Sasha. Go on.
It might represent mine.
And it might represent RoadWorthy Drive since it's my show.
Hey, I'm the executive producer. I'm the only one that counts. Go on.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Little control issue there, Jack. Just wee bit. Vehicle alert notice. Please respond within 5 days. Has my wife's name on it, expiration date, and in red, important information about your vehicle. Now, still on the postcard, your immediate attention is required. Gives a phone number. On the backside, in red, this is your final notice. Oh, my goodness. What could possibly be going on with her car? May I quote?
Not a darn thing.
This notice is to inform you that the factory warranty on your vehicle has expired, and mentions the vehicle, or is about to expire. This is our final attempt to contact you. After this attempt, this offer will expire. Oh, my goodness. I need to get on the phone.
No, you don't.
Yeah, let's break this down.
And by the way,
yeah,
I got the same card for my truck right after I bought it in January.
Number one, the warranty on this thing is years away from the factory warranty.
Correct.
Years away. The powertrain warranty, years away. she's not even in danger of breaking the mileage part of that warranty. She's had it, 5 months now?
Mm-hmm.
She's got less than 6,000 miles on it. You don't drive that.
And I got 52 on my truck.
Yeah.
Right.
What kills me is that people who are older, perhaps, may react to this. Now, we actually bought from the dealer extra warranty protection from the manufacturer.
Correct.
So this is like bogus times 2.
Well, it is, and you mentioned the elderly.
Yeah, and I'm about to deal with that.
Well, my father remarried,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife bought a 2014
Mhm.
car.
Mhm.
Within 6 months of her getting it, she got the exact same postcard.
Wow.
But
And,
wait,
and they get a hold of me, and I look at it, I'm going, this is a damn scam.
Yeah.
It is.
I said, you bought the car. It was new. You had a warranty. You also bought the extended warranty.
Mhm.
Throw that card away.
But wait a minute. Here's the best part. In very small letters, it says who it is, and it's not your dealer or manufacturer. This is an offer for mechanical breakdown protection. Now, let me throw this at you. That is a parallel story that people need to be aware of. And the headline is how criminals steal $37 billion a year from America's elderly. Now, they're not just talking about car scams like that, but a whole bunch of things. But I wanted to bring this to the attention because if you are of diminished capacity mentally, a little bit, you might wonder, well, I thought I bought a warranty. I mean, you get into all that paperwork when you buy a vehicle, and they explain it to you. But if you're a little older, you might not realize that you did or you didn't.
Well, and you might not remember that the paperwork's in the glove box.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but I mean, the way that they word it so that it's vital, it's important, you need to act now.
Well, of course. But here's the part that bothers me in looking at this particular article, and I believe I got this out of the New York Times. Financial exploitation is a used problem in the sense that it's so profoundly destructive to older folk. Now, the reason why they're able to do it is that very often victims have some level of cognitive impairment, which makes it really difficult for them to figure out the truth of what's going on. And this survey, what they're talking about, starts with people over 60. My wife and I are in that category.
Well, and here's the other thing. What I don't ever remember a time back when my grandmother was alive, other than the fact that she was a little diminished capacity. That she'd go to mom and dad all the time and go, would you read this and see if you can explain this to me? Because I don't understand it. I mean, it's gotten to the point that the baby boomers are now having to do the same thing for their parents.
Yeah. Let me, we're coming up on the break, but let me read this. Financial judgment can start to falter before normal cognition does, regardless of whether the person was savvy with money when they were younger. In other words, it can happen even when the person seems normal. Buyer beware, folks. There are many, coming up, connected cars. Your car is talking to Big Dad.
This is RoadWorthy Drive.
Go to RoadWorthyDrive.com to check out Ken's blog, listen to past shows, and the times when you can see the show on Facebook Live.
As a baby boomer, this just drives me crazy.
I just want to read this again because this thing struck me like lightning. Financial judgment can start to falter before normal cognition does. In other words, I could be fully functioning, you think, but because I'm older, a little diminished, but not diminished so much where it's noticeable, regardless of whether the person was savvy with money when they were younger. And in other words, it can happen even when the person seems normal. And I want to read one more thing before I turn this loose because it really, really got me upset. And I'm looking at actually a medical paper on this.
Okay.
And here's what it says. So, and I'm skipping. Recent studies suggest that even cognitively intact older adults can have functional changes which may render them financially vulnerable. Such social isolation also increases dramatically with age, which places older persons at risk for exploitation from predators. Here's the thing that got me angry. And I quote, Furthermore, capitalistic enterprises can threaten the financial security of this group, which is to be perceived as a large untapped market, and in an era of information overload is often presented with a dizzying array of products and services. In other words, these folks aim for folk like this.
Yeah. Yeah, there was this whole thing, and this would have been like maybe 5 years ago, and it absolutely infuriated me. It was a cell phone service that it was like large key cell phones.
You're talking about Jitterbug.
Was that what it was?
That's what it was.
And they were charging people like these astronomical rates for this service. And I'm like, you realize that all they have to do is get their phone and they can get a standardized plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they again targeted directly to, the senior citizens. A lot of these things, like when your previous article, when they were talking about how, they'll make financial mistakes before it actually shows. A lot of times when they get up, they don't want to ask for help 10 or 15 times. When it first starts to go, when they realize that I don't grasp things as well as I used to.
And they don't always realize it.
And they don't, right. A lot of times, that era right in there, I've got family that I've been through.
And that is where I guess I've been blessed.
Yeah.
Because even with Mom's dementia,
Mm-hmm.
and Dad's going to be 88 in July.
Oh, wow.
Both of them were always going, can you look at this for me?
See, and
I don't understand what they're trying to do here.
Yep.
And Dad is still doing that with me today.
Yeah.
I will end this with this statement, which should upset everybody. It says, we believe this is a problem with a serious effect on patients, their families, and society. Its roots reside in the curious intersection of several trends, including a rapidly aging society, age-associated changes in the human brain, shifts in concentration of wealth to older demographic groups, and, this is the part, the industry's adoption of marketing strategies that are increasingly becoming rooted in behavioral economics and cognitive neuroscience. In other words, they aim at old folks on purpose to confuse them like that to get to spend money. And that's where my rant is. And they said it starts at 60 years old.
And that is where your rant should be.
Yeah. That's where everybody's rant should be. The fact that these companies are allowed, and granted, because when you look at something like that, me being the average person, it's got to be illegal.
Well,
the problem is, it's not necessarily.
Okay. When I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and granted, my grandmother, the one that lived with me,
Okay.
was born in 1908.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Her husband had a business.
Mm-hmm.
I got taught at a very young age that there's a way you do business.
Yep.
And Dad kept saying he used to get so mad at me when I would start writing up contracts to make sure that, unfortunately, that we were covered.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of crap just makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
But that is why we're here sharing with the public, giving people a heads up. Because this is the kind of stuff that's happening in real time. This is the kind of stuff that right now, as far as laws, it's uneven across the country. And there are no real federal laws that will protect an elder against this sort of abuse, sometimes from even family members.
Yeah.
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 And I didn't even get into that part. But the bottom line is something that didn't make any sense at our age. And did I mention, and I forgot to mention, they called her on her cell phone.
No.
They called your
They
wife on her cell
called
phone?
her. Yeah. She hung up on him.
Yeah, but can
I
I
would
ask-
have turned him over to the Attorney General's office, but that's just me.
See, and can I share a story real quick before we go on? I actually got a call this week on my cell phone and then on my my business phone.
Okay.
The first one was saying that they found fraudulent illegal activity on my IRS report and that I needed to call this number to address the illegal fraudulent information that I put in on my 2016 or 2017 tax return. And then it stated the number again. completely autonomous or completely
bogus.
It was a computerized voice. It wasn't an actual person. It was all like a digital voice, right? Or AI. Didn't give me an option to take me off their list. Didn't even say my name. Just this autonomous message that started right from the get when you answered the phone and said the number twice. Now, I blocked that number because they tried calling me like 4 times. And I would just let it.
Oh, you should have went to the Attorney General. That's
well,
harassment.
I'm getting to that. Then, later on that day, after I hit block, so basically it sends a message back to the dialer saying that that number is no longer in service. Okay? So then I get a call to my business line, this time saying the loan application that I had done online, because I guess I do that kind of thing, has been approved. And in order for the money to be transferred to my bank account by 5 p.m. that day, considering the fact that it was 4:38 p.m., I needed to call them at the same number as the IRS number message gave me to get that information straightened out.
Well, and as you and I talked, because you and I talked about this week.
Right.
And what I told you is probably some company in the Middle East or overseas.
Well, yeah, because they
that is doing this.
Yep.
That are taking. I got one this week. Number not in use.
Cute.
Well, and because what they're doing is now they're not even buying telephone number
hijacking
lists.
phone numbers.
Okay, they are just dialing. They put it into a computer, and that computer will start dialing every single number imaginable. Okay, if it comes up with a busy signal, if it comes up with a not in use, da-da-da. Now, they're also using a software program so that way on your caller ID, it will show up like what Jack was saying, like number not in use, or it will look like a number from your area. Okay?
Yep.
They're hijacking actual telephone numbers, or what do they call it, ghosting?
Yep.
They're ghosting an actual telephone number. So trying to trick people to pick up the phone. And then they type in the script, and then the automated voice will read out that script to whoever answers the phone. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, I called my, because with me, every single phone call that I have automatically gets recorded. So I was able to actually send them the data or send them the actual call. And they said, they've been getting these and da-da-da-da, and most people forget to write down the number. And I was like, oh, here you go. This is the number. They thought it was interesting that it was obviously the same people, because it was the same number for 2 different things. That would not, because I was like, so the IRS gives me loans now that I applied for online?
Well, and the whole thing is what they're trying to do is that they're trying to get you upset enough that you're not going to recall what that number is.
No, they're trying to scramble you.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Because apparently it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
For every 100,000 that they call, they get 3.
And if they can hook just one of those 3 for even $25,000, $3,000, it doesn't matter to them. It's money in the bank. Because they will get, especially with that IRS, they get so many people every year.
I will close this with this. Number 1, the IRS doesn't call you out of the clear blue.
No, they don't.
And unfortunately, I know this from history. You're gonna have considerable correspondence with them, along with rights and all of that, long before you get a phone call. Now, I'm not going to say the IRS will never call you, but if they do, they will identify themselves as the IRS. They will give you a badge number, and a phone number, and a name.
And it shows up on your caller ID as the IRS.
And they will tell you why they're calling. And typically, it's nothing like that. So buyer beware.
All right.
And that's the reason why they won't, like these ghosters, they won't program it to say the IRS, because then that makes it a federal crime.
Yeah.
Good point. 9 minutes, people.
Yep. And this is third segment.
Yep. Are we ready?
We are ready.
Here we go. Again, it's a woman not ready.
Whoa! Whoa! Hold it. You buddy. It's on you.
No, I got the reaction I wanted.
You noticed I moved.
Yes, I did.
I did not want to get hit by that lightning bolt.
No, I am a woman. I look fabulous. I'm used to men complaining that I take too long to get ready.
I got nothing on that.
Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, I was reading that wrong.
Yes, you were. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
9 minutes, people.
Here we go.
Welcome to the second half of this hour of RoadWorthy Drive. I'm your host and automotive ringmaster, Ken Chester. For those of you who want or need more than your fair share of the road, check out the show website. That's RoadWorthyDrive.com. We have audio clips of past shows, video of our behind-the-scene antics, and so much more. The website's a great place to discover where we are in the world of social media. Sasha is our very own social media diva who keeps things light and lively during the week between shows. See what she finds in the world of automakers and automotive tech. For you folks that are truly mobile, RoadWorthy Drive can also be found on Google Play. Yay, Google Play. Yeah, I'm saying. So that you will never have to be very far from me and the RoadWorthy Drive crew. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. Connected vehicles. Now, at the top of the hour, during our rummaging around in the parts bin, we kind of alluded to a subject with connected vehicles with Toyota and Lexus. But you might have wondered, even then, okay, Ken, what are you talking about? Chances are, if you own a vehicle that's 7 years old or newer, it's a connected vehicle. And I hate to be the one to tell you, it's talking to big data.
All the time.
And sometimes, big data talks back to it.
Yep.
It's not always nefarious. It's for your good occasionally. So let's just start with the basics on what we mean by connected car. You know, connected to what, first of all?
Well, Wi-Fi.
Well, let's
Infrastructure.
make it, well, not yet. Let's make it a little easier.
Okay.
A connected car is a car that is equipped with internet access, usually also with a wireless local area network. It allows the car to share internet access with other devices both inside as well as outside the vehicle. Often the car is outfitted with special technologies that tap into the internet or wireless LAN and provide additional benefits to the driver. Now, it's for safety-critical applications. It's anticipated that cars will also be connected to, wait for it, dedicated short-range communication radios. Does that sound familiar? Toyota and Lexus. We talked about it top hour.
Yep.
Operating in the FCC-granted 5.9 gigahertz band with very low latency, meaning it's easy to get contact. You asked the question, we just answered it.
Yep.
Okay.
That they're going to use this dedicated short-range communication system, and it's going to operate in that particular 5.9 gigahertz band. So in other words, even if you don't subscribe to the other services, even if you don't have internet turned on, even if you don't have Wi-Fi in your vehicle,
It's still going to take car data and send it.
and probably also provide it. The key is safety-critical applications. Traffic, accidents, road construction, other traffic hazards.
And this is the same thing that they're going to use to do the updates to your car over the air.
It could be, I believe, but that literally gets automaker by automaker
Okay.
in terms of how they're going to do that. The difference, folks, is that while autonomous cars are coming, you're driving a connected car right now. If it's 7 years or newer, you are driving a connected car right now, this moment. And in fact, in a number of cars, when you start them up, you may see, in fact, a notice from the automaker saying, this car transmits data, this is the kind of data it transmits. If you're okay, hit okay. If you don't want it to, hit decline. Unfortunately, if you do that, you may also be turning off getting safety information.
So what you're saying is they're making you hit okay.
They're making it difficult for you not to hit okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
There are basically 5 different ways a vehicle can be connected. Vehicle to infrastructure, we talked about that, otherwise known as V to I. That'd be like traffic lights, signage, things like that. And we talked about Audi, which would be a good example. Vehicle to vehicle. This is something that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is getting ready to issue guidelines to require vehicle to vehicle information to be passed between vehicles, again, from a safety standpoint. Think of a intersection where all the vehicles know relative to the intersection if the light's red or green, how much traffic is coming to it, and may slow or speed the vehicles up to maintain traffic continuity and pass-through. Here's one for you. Vehicle to cloud. We ain't talking about that one.
I'm going to assume this has to do something with computers, not the vehicles going to the cloud.
No, not literally. The technology exchanges information about and for applications of the vehicle with a cloud system. This allows the vehicle to use information from other through the cloud connected industries like energy, transportation, smart homes, and make use of Internet of Things. In other words, Alexa, hello, and Google's got one. I forget what Google calls theirs.
I could go on a rant about Alexa, but I won't.
What?
I could also.
I don't want Alexa listening to every conversation I'm having at home.
Okay, first of all, I don't know where this hate is coming from for the lady. I feel a lot of animosity towards Alexa right here. But we'll save that for another time. How's that? Yeah, we will. Here's one for you, Jack. Number 4, vehicle to pedestrian.
You're going to connect the vehicle to somebody's cell phone.
The technology senses information about its environment and communicates it to other vehicles, infrastructure, and you're right, Jack, personal mobile devices. This enables the vehicle to communicate with pedestrians and is intended to improve safety and mobility on the road.
I don't see that working in New York City.
I've been in New York City, and like I tell you, chances are better you're going to get hit by a bicycle.
Right.
And I wish I was being snarky. I'm really not.
Where is the bike to personal device?
Right.
Yeah, really. Because you've got sidewalk, bike lane, parking, traffic. And if you're not paying attention, you drop off that sidewalk, you're going to tangle with a bike, and they're moving. It's not a ride through the park. They are on a mission, and they be rolling. Manhattan. Number 5, we talked about this. V to X, vehicle to everything.
Yep.
This technology interconnects all types of vehicles and infrastructure systems with another. This connectivity includes cars, highways, ships, trains, and airplanes. Hey, vehicle to everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Vehicle to everything. Lions and tigers and bears.
Oh, my.
Yeah, okay. We can go into 8 further categories, and I'm just going to read them really quick, where the connected car segment can be further classified. Mobility management, commerce, vehicle management, breakdown prevention, safety, entertainment, driver assistance, and the one that's a little bit prickly, and I told you this was coming, well-being. This one I'm going to read. Functions involving the driver's comfort and ability and fitness to drive, i.e. fatigue detection, automatic environmental adjustments to keep driver alert, medical assistance. Mercedes does that now. It reads your eyes. If it feels that you're fatigued, you'll get a little coffee cup. Time to pull over, question mark? This is happening in real time, people. Connected cars. That is what we mean by the vehicle that you currently drive. Finally, autonomous cars. What they are and what they're not yet.
You're riding shotgun with Ken and RoadWorthy Drive.
RoadWorthyDrive.com is the place to keep up with the latest happenings with Ken and the show.
Well, all of this technology, all I keep seeing is problems with it.
Well, okay, there's problems because we're not regulating what can be shared. And we're not regulating how it's going to be shared and what's happening to that information. And on a side note, the connected cars, this is where the time thing really it grinds my gears because
Her gears are being grinded.
Apparently.
Huh?
we weren't able to get into the cusp of what all it's communicating to.
Girls should double clutch. It keeps that from happening. I'm just saying.
The things.
Anyway.
But we weren't able to get into what the cars are, the connected cars are actually connected to, and how they are communicating, and in what ways they are communicating.
We actually did say that in this session. We told you what band
Yeah.
it's connecting. We told you the type of information that it's uploading, and with the potential of downloading. I mean, if you're looking for an exhaustive list, no, you're not going to get it. Now, here's two things where I take issue. One, there are guidelines issued by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration regarding cybersecurity, privacy. So it's not the Wild West out there. Okay? That now, to your argument, Jack, I agree with you. I'm not letting them off the hook. But what I'm saying is it's not a free-for-all. But yet, they could do better.
It still makes me question that if my truck is communicating with whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is my VIN number out there?
No. Why would it be?
I'm asking.
I would have to ask that as well, because here's my thing. If the automaker, okay, in your case Ford, right?
Correct.
Ford is wanting to receive data on your truck. The VIN number would have the package.
The engine package,
Yeah, right.
transmission package, that
Right.
kind of stuff.
So it would have all this information. Now, I understand that they're trying to keep it as anonymous as possible. But by the same token, the VIN number would be an easier way to make sure that...
Okay, two things. One, Ford Motor Company already knows you are attached to that VIN number. You
Yeah,
bought
they
the
do.
truck, they know. They have to know for legal standards to issue a safety recall. So that's a moot point.
I don't think that he was talking about whether Ford knew it. He
No.
was...
But
In my mind, it's okay for the manufacturer of the vehicle that I am driving
Mhm.
to know that VIN is attached to me.
Right.
But if I remember correctly, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong,
We will.
I can Google any VIN number and get all the information I want.
that I don't know for sure.
Yes. You can basically just type in a VIN number and it will display everything on that car.
Okay.
Except for owner. I think that you actually have to pay for that still.
All right.
But it's still out there and available.
It's still out there and
There's a
available.
lot of information that's been out there for years. Anytime you got a driver's license, a security card, we've been leaving a track. They've just gotten better at mining it. But that information, a lot of that information that you're concerned about, has been out there for years, decades, and that people have had control of it. Example, credit reports. When you get these unsolicited credit card.
You've been approved for $100,000.
Yeah, they're not just doing that in the woods. They've gotten access to certain information from one or more of the rating companies relative to, okay, we want to make this offer to people who meet this criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the argument. I don't have a problem with the automaker because of certain safety information they need to know, and there's certain vehicle information that would help them in terms of monitoring my vehicle, in terms of making it run well, or correct a problem, or finding a problem. Because we've talked about recalls here. Have you noticed how specific they have gotten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why? Information. Which saves a lot of people who don't need to grieve, don't get to grieve. Back in the day, that would have issued a recall for all of the vehicles.
Yep.
Yes, but by the same token, while it might be the automaker, at what point, let's say the automaker hands that over to a third party, that information to actually calibrate or put into, different subfolders and so on and so forth. I agree that if I went out and I bought a Ford, okay,
Or any other vehicle.
or any other vehicle, that brand name, Ford, Chrysler, whatever,
Tesla.
would have the right to gather my information. I would not have a problem with Elon Musk having my telephone number. But, stop it. However, y'all know what I'm talking about, though. Seriously.
I'm not there. Continue.
Anyway, however, should they then take that information and give it to a third party. I do have a problem with that.
Okay, hold it. That handoff. That is where usually in all the privacy stuff, typically they will say it. When it comes to third parties, either they'll say, we may occasionally, if we do, this is what they get. They will be very specific because I've read some of that. Yeah. Or they can say, you can choose to opt out of whether or not we share your information with third parties. But again, even here, it's a matter of buyer beware. Okay? You can't expect to put all this on the government and then complain that I've got too much regulation if you're not doing the basics. Now, if again, the companies that are trying to do the right thing, we have an obligation to at least read this stuff and make the decision based on the information. Either A, I've read it, I'm opting out of this, or I've read it, you're unclear about this.
How much of that, though, like, if you want to use a operating system that does not constantly evaluate what you're doing with said computer and what you're doing on the internet, how
you can opt out?
Can you?
Yes, specifically to those two things.
Mm-hmm. You can tell Microsoft to
be nice.
Go away.
You can.
With Windows 10?
Yes.
You won't get the updates.
I would not feel sorry about that.
You can, I mean, it's the third, really,
it's annoying.
It's the third party issue that you're questioning. And in most situations, I'm not going to say all, you can opt out. But you got to read it, people. You can't put it all on the government and then go, oh, me, I didn't know. Oh, me, yeah, but they said it was right there. The question is, if it's not there, pin them down. But if it is, you as a consumer have an obligation. Is the reason why it says buyer beware. You have an obligation and a responsibility as a consumer. If you are concerned about your privacy, if you are concerned about your security, then you need to be proactive.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When you and the missus bought the vehicle, did you read all the paperwork?
The money paperwork,
You still halfway through it.
No, the money paperwork, you betcha. Made him rewrite it, too.
Yeah, but
Really?
I did.
the money paper, he's talking about the loan and like the cost and
Well,
stuff.
what I'm saying is there's a whole bunch of paperwork you get when you buy a vehicle at a dealer.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, they kill trees for a living.
Yes.
Them in the housing industry.
Well, that's true, too.
Yeah. In triplicate.
But like I said,
On Wednesdays.
I'm like you. I will read the financial stuff to make sure that everything is where it is supposed to be.
Right.
So anyway, 850, guys. Let's get this.
Hold on, I'm not there. Hold on.
Of course he's not there.
Wow.
I'm cheating,
By the way, you just saw a rant.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yes, that was a RoadWorthy rant.
Oh, my.
And see,
I don't, wait a minute. I don't recall any disclaimers for his rant.
well, that's because he's the executive producer and he's the only one that matters.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yes, sir.
I'm the talent.
No. We put your name there because we needed some kind of credibility because nobody knows Sasha or Jack. But at the end of the day, he is the executive producer, and he's the only one that matters. But you're still a good face for the brand.
Oh,
That's your good face for the brand.
That's cute. It's so incredibly sexist.
And now we're going to 850.
I'm telling you, when you don't get a chance to watch the behind the scenes that we put out on our YouTube channel, you miss a lot. If you're just tuning in, this is the last part of the hour of RoadWorthy Drive. I'm Ken Chester, otherwise known as The Talent. Thank you very much.
Here we go.
Yeah, betcha. During this hour, we have warned you of consumer scams and treachery regarding extended warranties, explain what is meant by a connected car, and now we're going to discuss what an autonomous car really is and what it isn't. Yet.
It is autopilot.
No.
It is autopilot.
No. Y'all,
It is totally autopilot.
We are all laughing because we understand this, but we need to explain it to you guys because there's a lot of terms out there, Ken, that is being bandied around right now that's doing a lot of confusion to a lot of people.
like ProPilot
Yes.
and Super Cruise
Yep.
and Autopilot.
Yep.
Now, I like the term. Now, granted, because
and wait a minute, traffic jam assist, my personal favorite.
I like that one too. I like, because I'm weird that I interpret words for their actual meaning. So, right? So when you say something like autopilot,
I'm expecting the darn thing to drive itself.
I assume that it's similar to autopilot in a plane.
Yep.
That's called marketing whoops.
Right? Now,
Say that again. Sasha, say that again.
I'm assuming that it will be like autopilot in a plane. Right.
Yeah.
But so when you're talking about this kind of technology where it's not autonomous, we're not even approaching autonomous, but it is able to communicate and sense other vehicles around it. Okay.
Are we anywhere near semi-autonomous yet?
Okay, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Autopilot, Tesla, Super Cruise, Cadillac,
Which I love that
ProPilot,
name.
Nissan, Traffic Jam Assist,
Yep.
Audi. These are all semi-autonomous cars. They are not fully autonomous, which means you can sit back, the car does everything. Let's explain what an autonomous car is. Let me read it to you. Also known as a driverless car, self-driving car. I've never heard this term robotic car, but I guess that's for the
I guess that
people.
makes sense.
Is an unmanned ground vehicle capable of sensing its environment and navigating without human input. Without human input.
No steering wheel, no pedals.
Right. No human input. Now, there's so much we can talk about. We're not going to have time to get to everything I want to talk about. But let me get to the thing that's most important. When we talk about no autonomy, semi-autonomous, highly automated vehicles, you may have heard that term, as well as fully automated vehicles. There is a group called the Society of Automotive Engineers. They actually set all the standards for a multitude of things that happen in the auto industry. What they have is SAE, which is their abbreviation, J3016. That standard sets the standards and the definitions for different levels of autonomy. Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in their guidelines, adopted that standard. So everybody's talking the same language now.
So now we still go from 0 to 4, right?
We still go to, well, actually, we go from 0 to 5.
Yeah.
0 to 5,
Okay. 0, SAE level 0. No automation. Well, 0, 1, and 2. Human driver monitors the driving environment. 0, no automation. That's what we're going with now. And although I would argue about cruise control, they're saying that's not a thing. Okay. Level 1 is drive assistance. Now, understand, human drivers still monitoring the driving environment, but the driving mode-specific execution by the driver assistance system is either steering or acceleration-deceleration. An example of that could be like adaptive cruise control.
Now, what would they call the and I'm not sure if this is still a thing, the parallel parking button?
We're going to get to that.
What?
That would be partial or conditional automation. Now, SE level 2, the driving mode specific execution by one or more driver assistance systems of both steering and acceleration-deceleration. Using information about the driving environment, the expectations, the human driver performs all the remaining aspects of the dramatic, dynamic driving task.
Okay. What would they call the automatically dimming headlights?
That's not even considered.
They don't even consider that? Okay.
Not for this thing.
Okay.
Now, on 3 through 5, SAE standards 3 through 5, automated system monitors the driving environment. And 3 is called conditional automation, which would also be known as a highly automated vehicle. The driving mode specific performance by an automated driving system of all aspects of the dynamic driving task, with the exception that the human driver will respond appropriately to a request to intervene. That would be what Uber's doing, Waymo's doing, and what see, there's one more. And what
the bus one.
Yeah.
Let's throw out some terms here. You tell me if this fits into category number 3. Lane change mitigation, blind spot mitigation, front control crash protection.
Otherwise known as automatic emergency braking.
Right.
Also known as part of a package that Subaru has called eyesight.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are known
That would fall
as
in the category.
these are known in the industry as assisted. Let's see, it's ADAS, which I believe is assisted driver. I need to find it so I get that right.
And see, that's a very good question because you're talking about systems and technology that allows the car to interpret its environment.
Well, let me answer your question. Now, the level one, where the driver's still in control, examples: adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and parking assistance. Level 2, an example, the contact between hand and wheel is often mandatory during SE2 driving to confirm the driver is ready to intervene. Level 1, hands off. Level 2, hands off. I'm sorry. Level 1, hands on. Level 2, hands off. Level 3, eyes off. The driver can safely turn their attention away from driving past, can text or watch a movie. Vehicle will handle situations that call for an immediate response like emergency braking. Driver still must be prepared to intervene at some limited time, specified by the manufacturer and called on by the vehicle to do so. The 2018 Audi A8 luxury sedan was the first commercial car to claim to be capable of level 3 driving. They talked about traffic jam pilot. When activated by the human driver, the car takes full control and only works on highways with a physical barrier, so at slow speeds. So there it is, and as usual, we're out of time again. On behalf of me and the RoadWorthy Drive crew, thanks for listening.
This has been RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester is a copyrighted presentation of the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of the Motor News Media Corporation.
Can you mind, Sasha?
I would have loved to have taken 2 segments and actually discussed that. I mean, it's one of those things where, yes, I know the time clock's in front of me, but by the same token, that is exactly why our show is so popular, because we are addressing the constantly evolving technology.
Do remember, we have talked about this more than once. This, if anything, was a refresher for our regular listeners and a primer for our new ones. Now, what I'm waiting on, which would be beneficial, is probably NHTSA has been issuing updated guidelines every year, usually in the fall. If they do that this fall like they have the last previous years, that would be a good time to slow down, do a whole show, take an hour, and do it.
Okay.
But the thing is, this changing so fast, we just wanted to give people a taste of what's going on. So. And on that case, ladies and gentlemen, this ends our hour of Behind the Scenes. On behalf of Jack, Sasha, and myself, we appreciate you dropping in. Be sure to tune in next time when we do it all again. Bye-bye.
Bye.